Unfortunately, the really annoying bloke in the corner who keeps coughing and spluttering is now behind the microphone. My name is John Hunt. I work in the overseas team. I'm based in London. I will try and pull back from the mic if I feel a cough coming to save your ears. I'd like to say thank you to Alan, to Ralph, to Suzanne for the opportunity to speak with you this morning. And also to use this opportunity to acknowledge the great work that CITA have done in furthering the adoption of BIM in Ireland. And it's absolutely incredible what's been achieved in the last 2 years. And in the morning sessions that I've attended over the last years, again, really the support, the attendance is fantastic. And that's a message that has been passed back to the UK from a number of previous speakers who I've met in the UK and such like, and no doubt that Paul has felt today. So, without further ado, I appreciate that a number of your interests in BIM are around the adoption of BIM in Ireland. But if I may, I'll just talk a little bit about the origins of the journey of Enterprise Ireland, which started in the UK and has come to where we are today, which is obviously some of the programs, if you like, that have been developed and some of the investments that we're making within companies, but also within BIM across the industry. So, Enterprise Ireland and the UK, the start of the journey. Just to recap, and apologies if you've heard this before, Enterprise Ireland's mission is to create export growth, and it's to create export-related employment. Two things. The UK is a strategically key market for the UK. So we're divided across 30 overseas countries, and we work across 12 sectors. And those 12 sectors would be things like construction, financial services, life sciences, engineering, electronics, the list goes on. But to give you a flavour of how important that level of exports to the UK construction sector is, the 1.2 billion of Irish construction services and products that goes into the UK, that 1.2 billion equates to the total exports of those 12 sectors to the countries of France, Germany, Belgium, Holland, Sweden, Finland and Norway combined. So one sector, one market is contributing more exports than all those countries and 12 sectors combined across the indigenous sector. So it's absolutely key to Enterprise Ireland and to the Irish construction sector and the Irish economy. And that level of exports supports something in the order of 10,000 jobs. So it's absolutely key. And 4 or 5 years ago we saw, and it was through conversations with Paul Morrell, it's funny how these journeys start there, around the vision and the possibilities that BIM adoption could have. So 55% of all construction exports are in the UK, 1.2 billion, a significant number, and we saw the potential for change in the market that would impact. And relative to PAS 1192, the mandate of BIM was clearly a key reason for us taking this seriously, but it wasn't just the mandate, it was the mandate in connection with what's I suppose become the 7 pillars, first of which I believe was 1192-2 that came forward, which supported the industry's transition. So it wasn't just the mandate, it was the commitment to developing the rules, the guidelines, the field of play, which will allow the industry to move forward together. So absolutely key. I suppose what I'd like to talk about next, in terms of why it's important, why the change. There are still, and we'd still be very have the eyes open, if you like, in terms of the level of adoption through the mandate. And private sector and some of the key changes in the market that we're seeing. And one of those key changes is something I'd like to share with you this morning in terms of its impact and its relevance to collaborative working. At the back end of last year, the report was freely available by KPMG. And they called, and this has been supported by other commentators in recent weeks and months, they've called some significant changes afoot and some considerable market pressures to the UK contracting model. And the UK contracting model of lowest price, as we know, isn't particularly conducive to collaborative process, early engagement of supply chain, and some of the behaviours, if you like, that we like to explore with BIM. So I'm just going to talk about some of the findings of this report and some of the commentary on it. I'm just really going to break it down very, very simply. So, in short, the contracting business model in the UK, the national contracting model is under severe threat and needs to change from lowest cost to value add. The contracting business model has evolved to a model which is very, very closely related to the trading model. You know, this is really breaking it down nice and simply. So the contractor tender price is the buy price, and the contractor's delivery cost is the sell price, and the margin and contribution in the middle is the outcome, if you like. The effect of competitive tendering over the last 10, 12 years has evolved to a scenario where margins are no longer positive, and the benefit of trading has been through sort of the positive cash flow and generation of positive cash flow, and the increase in the volume of projects to ensure a larger stream of positive cash flows. And this whole model has become under severe threat. It's becoming no longer sustainable. And I just wanted to talk about some of those financial factors that are impacting on this as an enabler for BIM and collaborative working more fully over the next sort of 5-10 years. So what we need with a trading model, and then there are very successful trading models across the world, and normally they rely on very accurate knowledge of the market price. And we're not working off screens here and trades. We're working in a very different environment when the contractor is pricing his model. So you need accuracy of information. And where there's complexity in trades, that becomes harder. And where there's coordination of design and coordination of contracting services on site, again, are really hard to get that level of accuracy. So hence the decreasing of margins. Similarly, where you have a large volume of trades, which has been the model to create positive cash flow, you need information systems that give you accuracy of information across all of those trades. And if we look at the way contractors are managing their sites with autonomous project teams and such like, the systems aren't in place to give contractors that level of information across a number of complex trades. So the markets, the institutions are looking at this model as hard to invest in. In terms of the positive cash generation, so if you can build a business to £1 billion a year, if you can maintain cash flows through holding payments and such like of 50, 60, 80 million a month, can continue to generate those cash flows, there is a return from that money. You can invest it in other areas. And this is the other area I'd like to just to consider in terms of the financial benefits of what you do with this cash flow that you generate through the contractor model. There's two pressures again which are changing this. The first of which is it's actually really hard at the moment to get a return much above inflation with investments. There's also a lot of competition for investments internationally. And secondly, there's a lot of pressure from government and industry to reduce the payment times of contractors in the UK. And there's a recognition you can't go from 90 days to 30 days overnight, but there's a gradual process of 4 to 5 years that's been set out as a timeline of bringing payment terms down. And this makes the positive cash flow model and generation model more difficult for the contractor to work with. So just wanted to highlight some of the changes that are taking place. wind the clock back, boom, bust, recession. You know, the contractors are coming out of recession with very low cash balances, negative cash generation. They're selling assets to fund their businesses in the UK. And 10 years ago, it's boom, it's bust. When you come out of recession into boom, there's an opportunity to build your cash balances again. And that's what's happened historically. There's always been hard times, but I think the UK and London in particular has changed quite a lot in the last 7 years. 70% of all asset investment came from overseas last year into London. And the list is endless in terms of companies or countries even who are investing in the UK infrastructure and assets. And you know, the list is almost endless, but Canadian, Russian oligarchs, Qataris, the Middle East, the Malaysians, all investing in London and UK assets and infrastructure. But I'm just going to talk about, and with that interest in assets and delivery, there is, you know, increased competition. So the opportunity to make profit or to make significant margin in the upturn, if we're going to call it that, as we come out of recession, and I think the upturn is really so gradual. It's not a boom to bust scenario currently. Will the contractors have the opportunity to restore their balance sheets? And that was questioned in the KPMG report. And with the international competition, and I'm going to particularly focus on China as an investor in the UK because of the scale of their interest and because of their commitment, not just in terms of the scale of their infrastructure investment and asset and buildings investment, but in terms of their commitment to align that with their construction companies and their product and design solutions into the UK. So it's not going to get better. It's going to get more competitive and more international, I think is the message. And this is just a number of headlines, if you like, but give you an idea of the scale of the increase in China's interest in London real estate, for a start. So we're looking at £105 billion in the UK is 500 billion. So China are being courted by the current government to invest in UK infrastructure. And that's in the Hinkley Point project and also in High Speed 2, looking for private finance. And with these, China are looking to bring in their construction capability. But it's not just those kind of schemes, it's the buildings and projects that we'll get involved in, mixed use, residential, commercial. So China is coming, competition is going to ramp up, and then UK contractors are looking at how they can really add value in that model. This is always a fascinating slide. The top 10 UK or top 10 contractors in China, the top 2 combined would have significant turnover, which is about equivalent to the whole UK construction GDP. So some real scale and size there. And it's actually number 1, the China State Construction Engineering Corps, who are tendering on a 400 million project in Embassy Gardens on the south bank of the Thames currently. And there were 6 contractors, there were 4 UK and 2 Chinese. And the 2 Chinese contractors were Chinese State Construction Engineering Corps 2 and Chinese State Construction Engineering Corps 7. So they're under the same group, but they trade autonomously. 3 of the UK-based contractors pulled out, and it's now down to those 2 companies, 2 Chinese companies and Mace. So it's coming into the market in a real term, and the cost of capital of these guys is phenomenal, just from their scale. So things are changing, and I think that they're changing in line with a value-add approach and not lowest cost. We won't survive in that direction. So the end result for us is the development of 2 programs in the past 2-3 years. Some of you will be aware of them. We have BIM Enable, which is a strategic consultancy program, and we have BIM Implement, which is a training support program for the upskilling of BIM processes and technology in companies. I'd also say at this juncture, and maybe to reiterate, without the rules, the guides, the marking out of the playing field, it would have been very difficult for us to have put together a strategic program to help companies implement BIM. So it's the likes of PAS 1192-2, it's the likes of the BIM protocols, the other 7 pillars, or the other 5 pillars, if you like, that have been sort of fundamental in us developing these programs. And maybe just to talk a little bit about each one in a little bit of detail. BIM Enable is the strategic approach. It's 7 days of consultancy. Enterprise Ireland pay for 5 of those days, and it's really setting out, or these are the objectives that we set out for BIM Enable, and why, I suppose, why look to incentivise a strategic approach to your implementation of BIM. And there are a number of reasons. I hate doing bullet points, by the way, but I think there's only a couple of slides with bullet points there. So read away if you like, but the key message, I suppose, for us incentivising a strategic approach is that a number of organisations will implement reactively around a project or such like, and the depth of the benefits, the depth of the efficiencies realised will be marginal. We believe looking at the holistically across the organisation, at the processes, at the software, the technology, and realising the efficiencies through the organisation will give you a sustainable lead. And I think the HS2 slide was a really profound one, and one that I remember sort of hearing it at the time, in terms of the 50 or 55% of companies that have worked to level 2, or worked on a level 2 project. But the number of companies who actually had BIM processes was a far lower number. So I think there'll be lots of people who can demonstrate they've worked on a BIM project, but actually to show that they've embedded the processes, the information management across the organisation, so it doesn't lie with our BIM expert. It's a capability that's ingrained in the organisation, not in one individual who happens to know all about it. So we're looking for a real depth of implementation, and that's really what we're keen to incentivise. 3 types of I suppose three types of approach we've had to the incentivisation. The number one that you'll all be familiar with is we'll do BIM when we're asked for it. Tell me a client that doesn't want better outcomes in terms of price, quality, performance, health, safety, sustainability. They might not be calling for it by name, but they're certainly looking for better outcomes from construction. And this is McGraw-Hill, October 2004. This is design teams selling up the outcomes of BIM, not waiting for clients to ask for BIM. The second response generally is, that's great, we're doing BIM, thanks. And we call that approach, it's like Bob knows everything about BIM. And that, if Bob knows everything about BIM, then your company is very dependent on that one individual, and perhaps is not realising the benefits through the integration across business units. And the third type is the companies that we've engaged, and we're somewhere in the process of about 20 organisations now through the BIM Enable programme. The second stage is BIM Implement, which is training. So if you've got a strategic plan together, you know what you want to do and when you want to do it and how you're going to set about it, you've got the roadmap together, Enterprise Ireland support training costs around BIM tools and software, but also around training in terms of the information management, quality control and information processes, and also some supports around the salaries of those people being training. So if you know how to do it and you can see where you want to go, we'll help you with maybe some of the cash hurdle of implementing quickly. Because we believe there is still an opportunity to seek a competitive advantage through a more rapid and thorough implementation of BIM. So which brings me nicely to the end. Enterprise Ireland have prioritised clients with a UK trading footprint for our BIM programmes. But we're all very open to organisations who are keen to develop their UK footprint with BIM as a part of that. We're incentivising companies that wish to implement strategically, and we're incentivising and supporting companies to implement quickly. And it's an ambition for us to create a supply chain of 100 companies across all levels: design, construct, sub-supply, subcontract, product materials, and bring that excellence and capability to the UK market. And that is that. Thank you.